Hey, Hariharan. Just testing. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much. My colleagues will be joining in just a sec. So thanks for making this session happen.
Yeah. Absolutely, no worries. Thank you so much.
Hey, Harry. Maybe for a bit of context, I brought along a friend, Sean. So he is also very familiar with the crypto space and OpenSea and NFTs. So he might just have some questions. I did share some scope. If you don't mind, I can set a context for this call too, about some possible user personas and how we could better arrive at this session. And then I think when Melvin is here, we could just hear from you about what we could do for the students. Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'll just take a minute. Okay. So for me, right, I mean, just so-called like background research on the users, aka the students in the school, I anticipate about 4 main types of user groups, if it helps. The first type will be art students who are interested to mint their work. So they already have a very good art portfolio. They might be doing H2 art, which is a equivalent of an A-level subject. And they might face really very commonplace stigmas like parents telling them don't be a starting artist because they don't see the tech potential behind it. So there's first type of students who might attend. The second type will be people who are technical, not technical, but interested students. So they think that, hey, NFTs are extremely hard to make, it's only for reserved technical people. I sincerely believe that isn't true, and hence I think NUS FinTech Lab will be a wonderful partner for this type of students. The third type will be those who have just general interest about how things work, but they won't really make stuff. They're just here for fun, they're just curious to know, and they just are here for everything, and finally the type of builders. So I think within our school, they have very good builders, proficient in JS, TypeScript, Python, any coding language. They just haven't heard that much for NFTs, OpenSea, just exposure gap. So those are the 4 user types that I anticipate. And for possible learning value, I think for art students here, helping them monetize their art, or for builders, just understand how to make one, the value of it, or just a theoretical mental exercise for curiosity. So hopefully that provides slightly better context on the user types to anticipate, and happy to clarify based on the little surveys we've done prior to the workshop. Cool. Thanks so much, Harry. I think over to you for agenda. I think happy to stick to yours.
All right, thank you so much. I believe that Uli will be sharing the first half of this segment with regards to the power of networks, artificial intelligence, and blockchain. So let me just share my screen, and then Uli, you can take it away.
Sure. Great to meet everyone, and Melvin, great to see you on camp today. Oh no, we did see you. We did see you last time, but you were in a bunker or something, right? All right. So sorry, I missed the first part. I was in 3 conversations. Who's with us, and what are we looking to do? Do we want to do an actual dry run? Do we want to talk about what we're going to do when we need everybody's help? What's the plan?
All right,
I think we can. Sorry, Vignesh, you go ahead.
Yeah, so I think earlier Kaha did introduce the different stakeholders that we have and the user personas that he had created for the different members that will be attending this talk.
Okay.
Following that, he did ask us to talk a bit more about the agenda of this conversation and how exactly we can move forward from there.
Mhm. Okay. And sorry if I can just ask again. So the 4 stakeholders are.
All right. I think firstly is the H2 art students. So he did talk about there being A-level art students that currently do have artistic portfolios, and they do want to break out from the stigma that art doesn't really pay too well, and they do want to see how exactly they can monetize artworks in terms of
Okay.
NFTs. The second stakeholder will, of course, be those that are more inclined towards the technical side of things. So they are more experienced with programming, but they don't really have an idea of how exactly to create such NFTs or what is involved in the deployment of NFTs, or what's the role of tech in the NFT space itself.
Yeah.
So I think that's more where you do come in with the idea of artificial intelligence used to generate artworks, and then how we can move it onto the blockchain from there, and the more technical
Okay.
aspects. And
Right.
yeah, and I believe that he did talk about the third level, which are some students that are more proficient in the different programming languages such as JavaScript, Python, other languages. So maybe they'll be a bit more interested in a more technical aspect to this conversation.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if he did mention this, but there are some teachers that will be attending this conversation as well.
Yeah, I was excited about that part.
Wen is here as well. So Wen is one of the teachers who are joining today.
Which one?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi.
Which teacher do we have the pleasure of having with us today? Oh, Kako. Is it Kao?
Kahao and Wen Ying just spoke as well. So I think Wen Ying is from the
Unfortunately, I
math
can't hear
department.
you.
Never mind.
Okay, no problem.
It's okay. So.
Everybody else is still here. I mean, it's not my audio, right? You guys can hear me?
Hi, yes, Uli. Yeah, we can hear you.
No, something's wrong. One moment. Okay, testing.
Hi, Uli, can you hear us?
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, now I can hear you. You know, I'm so looking forward to doing this in person tomorrow, because there is still enough tech that can go wrong, projectors, internet, but at least we can have real conversations without audio problems. Can you hear me? Can you see me? We won't have that.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Let me see. Okay, three teachers, Wenying, Melvin, and Kao. Great. Well, let's look at the slides. Obviously, the idea is that we try this a little today and figure out, especially you as the teachers will know the audience much better than us. So you can tell us what makes sense, which ones are missing. I've had my slides mostly added. I mean, the session's only tomorrow. I typically do the final touches the night before, so they are not final. And I saw that Vignesh also has added his. Yeah, so I think it's good to start with an agenda slide just to make sure people have an idea how the 2 hours pan out. We'll say the first half, and whether this is an hour or 45 minutes, or we'll have to play by ear. The idea obviously is not to have a slides orgy, but to get into hands-on material while giving them an idea about, well, it's called the power of networks for a reason, right? Neural networks, blockchain networks, that they have a sense of understanding how these roughly work. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned those people with an arts focus, those people who are a little more technical, that we inspire them to code more, right? To do this as a hobby. I can do a few live demos with some of the engines as well, so it's not just going to be slides. I speak a bit about AI. Then we get into some of the machine learning and neural networks basic, but there's only one slide on this at the moment. Most of them are examples. We focus on practical use cases. We focus on AI engines that we can use today. Actually, I put some thoughts in having the theory part after the examples. And then after we talked a bit about how the neural networks work, we go to the second half of this first segment, which is let's look at art, let's create stuff, let's use an engine, let's use a web browser, let's use an app if you prefer to do this on your phone. And when my section is mostly done, the idea is that everybody has a bunch of nice art pieces to look at, and you don't have to be an artist to produce them. Just I mean, in the simplest case, you select a pre-configured prompt, and you click select, and you generate it until you find something that you find halfway acceptable. If you're more creative, you come up with something much nicer. And then the result is your own artwork. And then over to Vignesh. I'll say, okay, let's. I'll probably also take the chance to introduce myself, but then I'll say, okay, and then Vignesh is gonna cover the second part, and that's your agenda.
Hi. So essentially, for this conversation, I did realize that some people may not really have the technical background, or may just have passing knowledge about the blockchain and Web3, because of course, this is a new and developing space. So we did want to expose the students to what exactly the blockchain is, and just an introduction to blockchain and Web3 technologies in general. So moving on from this aspect, we'll be moving on to the idea of non-fungible tokens, what they are, and the opportunities that are available in the market space right now using NFTs. So I think this will also appeal to the stakeholders and the user personas that you did create, Kaha, which is we talk about what opportunities we find in NFTs for artists, what opportunities can we find in NFTs for those people that are more technically inclined, and then what opportunities can we find for just the general public. Following this, we'll also have a demo along with an actual session where we do get your own students to mint an NFT on the Polygon network. So this is essentially free to own. And then lastly, we will be giving out like a form where you just enter your MetaMask wallet ID, and we'll be providing like a certificate from NUS FinTech Labs. That is an NFT certificate, so that y'all can hold on to it and then essentially have something tangible come out of this whole experience.
Great. Okay. Artificial intelligence and creating art. So yeah, I'll start with a warning slide and say, a lot of the things that I'm going to show you, a lot of the photos that you're going to see, they're not real. They are created by AI engines of various sorts, and even 2-3 years ago, we would never have thought that we would come so far already in this short period of time. But I'm gonna show you a couple of examples, right? And I hope can you go back to slide number 0?
Yeah, sure.
So this one, I'm actually hoping, I don't know how outspoken your students are, but I'm actually hoping that somebody will say, hey, hang on, that's not our campus. There is something a little odd about this. Is that something you noticed? Do you see this large building next to it? It's not there, right? So I think this. I'll admit my daughter goes to RGS. She should be at RI next year. I've been there only once, but I'm not the expert. You guys are. So if you go back to where we just left off, this is my first example, right? To go to the next slide. I'd say by now, I hope you notice that this MRT exit on this tower is actually not in your school. Right? So the thing on the left is something that I found of Wikipedia. Right? And so you see, this is not a piece of art. It's not some abstract picture. It's something very real that I used an AI engine to manipulate. And even though I'm quite good at Photoshop, there was no Photoshop needed. I just erased some parts of the picture and used text to fill it up with something that looks fairly real. Thanks for being the slide monkey. Can you go to the deck? Yeah, so I used the same engine to say, yeah, give me Raffles Institution, the campus, as of the year 2065. So in about 40 years time. And that's what the AI imagined it could look like. Right? Just skip through have the next slide. Oh, I think the order. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I need to see it, the sequence. Maybe I need to rearrange some of the slides. So this one basically says AI. Everybody talks about AI costing our jobs. I have a different opinion, right? But at the same time, the pace of AI is so fast that I'm telling my son, you're learning a bit of Python, but you need to be better than the machine, because I can have an AI write a Python script. So you need to be better than the machine, and you need to be on top of the game. And I think the second point that I would make is, and I'll obviously talk a lot slower tomorrow, that 30 years ago, we would talk about chess computers as an example for AI, artificial intelligence. And today we no longer do this. It's called the AI effect. I put this into one of the next couple of slides. You can, here, the AI effect. When we think we have an idea how the AI works, we no longer think of it as AI. Siri and Google Assistant have become so omnipresent. It's just a machine that can talk and can trigger some web calls to figure out what the weather in Mexico is like. That's not AI, right? So there is some sort of inflation going on, and that also means the definition of what AI is changing over the years. It's machines that demonstrate intelligence similar to a human. We talk a bit about on a very high level, the difference between an AI and machine learning, because AI is a combination of data, of automation, of classic, if then else algorithms. It's almost like you're building a robot. You have sensors, you have a data brain that has been trained, and you have a machine that can put stuff into action. Like, for example, allow you to do border control at Changi Airport without meeting a human. That's an AI. It's a whole machine. It can read your passport. It can read your fingerprint. It can compare your data with the data in the database. It can adapt and learn. It can trigger responses, and it's able to trigger actions like open the gate and let you pass. That's an AI. Machine learning is a very specific technique that is more about the neural networks, and it's just a brain. A brain without a body is useless, right? So that's my analogy here. Let's go to the next slide. Right, so I have a lot of more examples. Singapore in the year, there's something about the year 2065 that just came up in my mind. And again, as much as I have a creative artistic brain, I'm not good with drawing or painting. So this is completely 100% just generated using a text prompt. And it's that very prompt that you see. Singapore in the year 2065, concept art. Next slide, please. And I like this one because it looks so real. It's not like the concept art you see earlier. This looks like a photo. Right? It looks like I've been to Gardens by the Bay, and the common ivy has grown all over MBS because nobody took care. It looks like a real photo. That also means we shouldn't always believe our eyes, especially with AI engines like this coming up. There's a lot of danger for fake news. Next slide. Yeah, this looks very much like International Plaza on the left and AXA Tower behind, and some police droids. It almost looks like a real photo. There's a few things that are off, but it's very close. Next one. Yeah, doesn't look very comfortable, right? But it's definitely a durian-shaped couch. What else do we have? Yeah, see it in fake news, right? With something like this, and it looks absolutely real. It looks three-dimensional. Without Photoshop, you could make a case that Coca-Cola is actually, from the Etruscan age already, and that they stole the logo in the US, supported by a real image, right? It's AI generated. Let's go to the next one. I think we are almost done. Yeah, over here. You could prove that they already had smartphones back then in Egypt, because there is a tomb that shows the painting on the wall. Right, quite fascinating. What's the next slide? Yeah, over here. If you wanted to prove that dragons, the Chinese dragons, actually existed, here's the hands of a scientist who shows a fossilized dragon skull. It doesn't look 100% real, but I mean, the next one looks absolutely real, right? And look how random this is. So I'm actually going to show this in class, right? I'm not just going to show the slides. A Japanese girl smiling at a puppet close-up portrait, and I can do this right now. I mean, if we want to, am I allowed to share my screen? Is it?
Yeah, sure. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Here you go.
Sure. Okay. Where's my? There's so many windows. I think it's this one. Right. So you see my screen? This is DALL-E. So I would ask. This is probably where people start to wake up and say, you know, this is impossible. How is that even real? How can you generate this with AI? So, you know, do you have a prompt for me? And you saw a couple of examples, right? I have many other examples. In fact, I'm just going to show you. Here are some more examples. I just had to choose some for the slides. You see here, this is the prompt that I used. An armchair in the shape of a mango, award-winning National Geographic photo. See here the fossilized Starbucks.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. You are absolutely sorry. You are absolutely right. I'm not sharing my entire screen. Now I am. Right. So here's the mango chair. Here's the dinosaur. Fossilized Starbucks logo. Here's a dinosaur in Kowloon. Right. So there's all kinds of ideas. See how detailed that is. MBS made of Play-Doh. You have some stormtroopers, and I'll basically say, could I ask some people? Here's a rabbit wearing a VR headset. I'll basically say, does anybody in the audience have a few suggestions? And since we don't have students, I'm just going to ask you from the teachers team, do you have a suggestion? And if it's something, of course, it has to be work safe. Otherwise, the engine will not let me do that. But you could, you know, Singapore Prime Minister action figure. I just made this up. Let's see what happens. So I'm just trying to kick this off by saying I didn't make this up. This is actually a real thing. I want to show you how it works. And here's how fast this thing is. Okay. It's pretty fun, right? Okay. So how about Melvin? You have a suggestion. You have something you want to see. Anything. Your favorite movie, your I don't know, rock star, a comic that you like, you know, anything.
Maybe something like my favorite football player, Cristiano Ronaldo.
I'm glad that you give this example. The OpenAI policy does not allow us to use names of existing real people.
Okay. So it's just like a title, for example, like
No,
football
I mean,
player.
yeah, or you could say, I mean, you could use fictional characters. I mean, if it's so, for example, you can't ask for something like Brad Pitt, but if you are using a famous character that Brad Pitt played, he will look very similar. You know my point. So the danger of AI, I made that hopefully clear by giving you some examples of things that are fake material, right? So they're trying to prohibit, to say I'm going to have a photo of Ronaldo eating a banana, and that would not be good. But
so
yeah,
this is off tangent, but is it because of copyright issues, or is it just because?
No, it's just to protect humans, to protect people's personal. I mean, I think to reduce abuse, to make sure people are not using it for the wrong reasons. But I mean, if you're saying, yeah,
we can have like a football player playing football on top of a building.
Yeah, which building?
Let's see,
the Empire State Building, MBS. Yeah, okay. A Spanish football team playing a match on top of the Empire State Building. So I'm gonna just generate this. The incredible thing is that most of the things that I showed you are photorealistic, but you see here some examples. You can say I want something that looks like a 1950s comic book, or I want something that looks like a Van Gogh painting of something else. You see here some examples. So here, yeah, okay, it's not really on top, right? So it's this. You can see the AI struggles with this because it's on top of a building, but it's not the Empire State Building is clearly in the back, right? But see, I mean, you've basically given the idea for this one, and maybe
It's the wrong football as well. It's American football.
Oh, yeah, we should say soccer, right? A Spanish soccer team. Playing on top. Yeah, okay, and let's. Do you want it photorealistic, or do you want it as a painting or as a comic, or? What
I think
that's
fine. We can have a try like
okay. Let's. Yeah, very observant. Yeah. Didn't realize this is. Let's see. Okay, they'll at least have soccer shirts now, isn't it? But okay. How about this? Faces are not so clear, right? Okay. Okay, we had a shot. How about Wenying? Do you have something that you want to see or that you want to test?
Well, I'm pretty happy with this AI idea. Yeah, I get a gist of it. Thank you so much.
Okay, there's nothing you want to try. Well, sure,
Yeah.
that's fine. No problem. Let's just move on. No, whereas I know we had the slides shared by Vinesh before, but I have them open here as well. That's the power of Google Slides, the power of the cloud. No more PowerPoints by email, right? That's one of my eternal rants. Here we go, right? Except that I just won't be going in full screen. I think my font sizes are typically large enough that you can see this anyway. So here, I find this one remarkable because it's so clear. I think it's just great. When it comes to just showing this as a random thing that came to my mind, a Japanese girl smiling at a Muppet close-up portrait, and here we start to think, oh wow, we can actually use this not just for photorealistic things but also for artwork. And so here's a surreal painting. I like this one very much. In fact, I started to print out some of these and put them on the wall. I think I should do this one as well. But yeah, I mean, back to practical use cases. I mean, it's fun to do something like this, but see, this is the place where I live in East Coast Singapore. I'm a happy Katong neighbor. But yeah, okay, let me go full screen. Maybe this is easier to see then. I'm not happy with the pool. People don't go in there a lot, and you can see this on the side. It's a little old and dusty, and it definitely needs a makeover. And with the AI engine, again, no Photoshop. I just erase the bottom part and I put in some text and I say, yeah, I want a nice pool. And this is what it did. Oh, look at this. I want a Greek garden with statues, or I want a yard with a fancy sports car. This looks very real. And if you go back here, you even see that it got most of the reflections in the water correctly, right? I think this is just fascinating. I hope by now people are fired up enough already and said, incredible. And you've even showed this to me. People will by then hopefully know that I'm a Python programmer, that I do lots of stuff with APIs and terminals. But to use this, you don't have to be a programmer. You can be just a creative person. The problem is this is not openly available yet. This is part of a company called OpenAI. It's an Elon Musk, Peter Thiel company. It's at the moment only available for researchers. So I'm very glad that since September last year, I think I got it's July. I got early access to some of those systems. I feel very privileged, so I got to study them and build use cases. The engine that they came up with first is called GPT-3. This is also something I can show. This is about text, and maybe since we are talking about students and schools, maybe I shouldn't show this in too much detail, because it's actually another one of these dangerous things. And I'll show you what I mean. I'll go back to the demo. This is another engine by this OpenAI system. It's called GPT-3. This one is open. Some parts of it are openly available yet. And again, it has nothing to do with coding. It can do coding as well, but I'm not going to show you that part. But whenever this loads, come on. This part I don't understand. Okay, here we go. It's a very light website, but anyway. So you still see my screen, right? So I say write an essay about climate change and how it affects Singapore. Right? This could be a school essay. And then I start to say title of the essay. It's getting hot. This is you could call this training of the network. And then I'll just say in 2016, comma, and then I'm just hitting submit. And you'll see that the engine is starting to write. Not everything will be making a lot of sense. And maybe I'll say there are many ways, one major way is to our weather. And then maybe I say, I feel this should be here. And then I don't want to talk about 2016 anymore. I'll say back then in the 1990s, comma. The point is that with engines like this, you can generate texts that are almost indistinguishable from what humans produce, right? So abuse, bots that flood people with fake information, students who use these kinds of things to, well, basically not use their brains anymore. But you can use this for almost everything. Let's say we are writing a job description for a business analyst, for an e-commerce company who want to expand into APAC. I'll say job title, business analyst APAC. And I'll say I'll say about the job. Now, you see here, it comes up with responsibilities, the requirements. This is not 100%. While you say, I don't want 5 years, I want 7 years of experience. So you can add some more responsibilities and so on. But you see that I mean, if I use it the right way, I can save a lot of time if I use these engines. So this is a neural network called GPT-3. Using 175 billion parameters. It's a lot. And you can imagine that this neural network has read the entire Wikipedia. It read most of the internet. It knows almost all the books and music pieces processed in history. And it's available at your fingertips, and you don't even have to teach the system that. You can just use the system to build use cases, like what I just showed you, to write texts, to write job descriptions. I've actually done one. I mean, so now you know how the thing works. I've actually done, I wouldn't call it chatbot. It's a digital super intelligence that I've had some of my students at NUS use, because they feel more comfortable asking what they think is stupid questions to a bot than to the teacher. Right, so they ask this bot. I mean, Joel Chip is my alias, Huxley is the bot. You can see that this is not a conversation about what's the weather in Mexico and then where can I order pizza. You have real conversations. I have lots of examples where we talk about technical things, where the students will just use this machine in Telegram to say, I didn't understand that part. Prof explained to me about APIs and DevOps. I didn't get that. Can you explain that to me again? And it's not just a one-shot question and answer. You have real conversations. My website has tons of examples. And I hope, by now, everybody is fired up enough that we can spend some time talking about neural networks. Are we going to have a whiteboard at the session tomorrow? A physical whiteboard or a blackboard?
Yes, I can bring some markers along for you as well.
Okay, well, can I, and I asked the same to Vignesh the other day. We don't want to turn this into a math exercise, but some of the basic calculus ideas people should be familiar with, right? Derivatives and so on.
Yes, they are familiar with first order, second order derivatives. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, I mean, like I said, it's not supposed to be about this. We can make this very simple, but see, I mean, instead of talking about theory, and then at some point saying, I guess now 2 hours later, I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm doing like the magic trick at the beginning, saying, did you actually notice that the school looks a little different on my intro slide? And then let's give you some more examples. And then hopefully people say, I want to know how that works. I want to build this myself. How can I do that? What's the magic behind it? And yeah, the power of networks. And our brain cells individually are incredibly non-smart. And but then put together, we have conversations, we create art, we conquer the world, and it's similar over here. So in the end, neural networks, which are mostly the engines behind these use cases, and to be sure, those are unsupervised networks. They are unsupervised training, right? But the supervised training examples are a little simpler. So the classic example is always like a network that is trained to do handwriting recognition numbers from 0 to 9. So we can show this a little on the whiteboard. In the end, this is all about numbers. It's all about computation that happens at the neurons and a bit of training to come to the desired outputs. And it's a self-organizing network that just works magic. And at some point, we stop understanding how they work. That's something we have to acknowledge. So I can spend some part on that theoretical part, but of course the idea is to recover from the equations and the whiteboard and say let's now use this to make art, right? And I'm going to say you've seen mostly photos in the past for what I showed you earlier. The good news is that this DALL-E engine just last week changed their policy. So now only now I'm able to actually. I would be able to sell this one as an NFT. Before that, it was not allowed. Now I can actually do that. But that will say let's look at some art together. And I appreciate that some of the folks in the class are actually having a focus on artwork. So even though I'm a technologist, I'm extremely passionate about art. And this is a completely different engine. So over the Christmas holidays, when my kids were studying and having tuitions, I said, why don't I produce some art pieces using so this is an online exhibition. This is the URL. Even the thing that you see in the background, it looks like a real world advertisement for the exhibition. It's of course also generated. You see here, I use some Japanese blockwood mechanisms to do some parts of this. These are some that are inspired by the big classical painters like Hopper, Van Gogh, and Monet. I've done some that are a little more like Jules Verne, 100 years ago, steampunk era. And then again, over here, people will ask how, right? So I'll talk a little bit about how I use the combination of some of the chatbots that you saw to come up with ideas. to use an engine that you will also see at the in a moment, that also the students will be able to use. And I used an automation to do this not once or twice, but to do this for every art piece 500 times. And then in the morning, I would have 500 renditions of the same idea, and 490 are probably really bad, and 10 are quite good, and I have to select one. So it's a combination of technologies. This is some of the slides I actually did not make for the session today. I stole them from a couple of previous presentations that I did at events. For me, AI is like a performance enhancer. I have the creativity in me, but I'm not the painter. So my point is, if the students have art in their heads, but they are not necessarily equipped with the techniques, they can use these AI engines to do that. Right. So the ones that we're going to use is called, you see the URL here. It's app.wombo.art. There is an app available for those who want to use the iPad, and there is a website like this available. So the quality of this one is not as good as the ones that you saw before, but you could say Christmas in Singapore, and I'll choose. You can choose a style, or a rock style. Melancholic. Okay, I'll create this one. Right, and then you see it says creating. And we can have several shots as this thing. There is no rate limit. Okay, not bad. Something interesting came up, right? And I could generate this again, but what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to save this on my desktop, and I'm going to crop it out a little because I don't want the frame. And here's my artwork, and then that's what the students will have at the end of my session. That's where I hand over to Vignesh.
All right, thank you so much, Uli. Yeah, that was a very interesting segment on how the power of AI can actually be used to harness like artwork and actually develop our own personal skills. Because like you, I myself am not much of an artist, and I'm also more invested in the tech world. So it's definitely very interesting to see how exactly we can connect the world of science and art together with something as okay, I cannot say as simple, because as we did see over the course of this conversation, it is complicated. But I guess something like AI can bridge these two worlds together. So I guess for part two, sorry, give me a second. And yes, for part two, we'll actually be moving on towards NFTs and the blockchain in general. So I'm sure that most of us gathered here have at least heard of the blockchain in passing, or at least in conversations with your friends or family. Sometimes people say, yes, did you buy Ethereum here? Did you hear about this blockchain development here? So it is something that is current. It is something that's always on the news. And it is something that people envision to be the future. Yeah. So I guess to start things off, what I'd like to address in this presentation is more so on what exactly a block is. So I like this subreddit page called Explain It to Me Like I'm 5, because I feel like that's the best way for someone who's new to a field to kind of understand what exactly we're talking about. So I'm going to try and explain what a block is, like we're 5 years old, or at least have some more knowledge. So let's say we walk into a bank vault itself, right? So within a bank vault, you can have multiple security deposit boxes. So let's take out one of these security deposit boxes. So I can put things into this box, but I'm the only one that has the key to it. So this particular key is essentially able to unlock this block, and we are able to add the info into it. So that's exactly what a blockchain resembles. So it's like multiple security deposit boxes that are placed in an extremely secure bank vault, and then each person has the key to unlocking this particular thing to access the information within it. So more on the technical side, within a block itself, we have essentially two main parts. So one is the header itself, and the second part is the block body. So I'll just be talking a bit more about this. So essentially what we have is like a hash, which is like a magic key phrase that says, hey, well, this is where you're located. It's almost like a house address to you. So essentially each block header will contain the hash of a previous block. Secondly, they contain something known as a root hash of a Merkle tree. So within each block, we actually have multiple transactions. So let's imagine taking all these transactions and then building a huge pyramid kind of structure out of it. In computer science, what we call this kind of pair pyramid structure is a tree. So when we create like this address or hash of each transaction and then create a hash of all of these hashes together, we arrive at the root hash of a Merkle tree. So this is exactly what is stored within a block. The third thing is, of course, the time of creation. Of course, we do want to know what time this block was created, and we do add that piece of information in. So it's something like when you come up and set up this security deposit box, they kind of record down, okay, you came at this date and this time, and then you open the account with us to put this in. So definitely this is something that goes into the block. The fourth thing is something known as difficulty level. So of course, this sounds like a video game, small, medium, extremely difficult, and impossible to beat. So essentially what it is each time we want to create a new block, there's some sort of computational power that's required in creating this new block. So this is what we refer to as the difficulty level. It's essentially how much computational resources or how much power is needed to generate a new block. And the last one is something that we call a nonce. So nonce is actually like an abbreviation for something that's number that is only used once. And it's typically appended to the back of this magic hash or address. So it kind of makes it more secure because it's unique and identifiable to only this particular block. So it's kind of like your NRIC. In that way, you can kind of imagine it to be something like that. And if there's any changes to a particular block or its content, essentially what happens is the NRIC of that changes. So it becomes like a whole new person. I think that's the best analogy I could come up with. And lastly, we do have the block body. So this is where we show all the transactions that are currently happening within a block and store all of these details. So now that we've talked about what a block is, we can talk about what the blockchain is, So I guess the second example that I'd like to call upon are different Lego blocks, right? So as we stack up these Lego blocks, we essentially create like a long chain, and this is what we can call the blockchain. But now let's take a step back. This seems pretty simple, right? So why is it that blockchain is secure, and why is it that people throw around words like data cannot be changed, difficult to hack, it's immutable? So let's say that before we connect two Lego blocks together, we have to solve like extremely complicated math problems, and then have the people around you say, okay, you've successfully solved it. I accept your answer to this math problem, and I verify that it indeed is correct. So essentially, because you have to solve a mathematics problem and then have other people verify it, it'll become very difficult to actually chain two block pieces together. So this is exactly what we call proof of work, or kind of like a verification mechanism to add two blocks together. And that's kind of what makes it difficult to change, difficult to hack, and immutable. Essentially, to replace one of these blocks, let's say I want to take out the yellow block right in the middle here, and then replace it with maybe a red block of my choice. I can't really do that because I'd have to go back, solve the math problem that this one gave me, attach it back, solve the math problem that this one gave me, and attach it back, which is why it makes it very difficult to hack the blockchain and very difficult to change it. And this is something that we refer to as immutability itself. So with the idea of a blockchain comes the idea of how exactly can we use this in our daily life? And that kind of becomes the stepping stone for what we call Web3 technology. So let's take a step back from Web3 and just talk about the entire development timeline, right? Because Web3, so what happened to Web 1 and Web 2? So essentially Web 1, we can think of it like the internet that our parents had, or maybe you yourself had in your childhood, It's kind of like very old HTML pages, just have a few emails here and there that you can send to each other. And it was kind of like a read-only kind of internet. There's not much functionality around it. So this was what we call Web 1.0. Following that came around Web 2.0. So this is the era that we're currently living in, or I should say maybe we were living in until like until recently. So this is what we have: our social media platform, our applications, and what we know constitutes the internet that we know today. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of these platforms form Web 2. Essentially, what Web 2 is for the more technical ones that do know, they are mostly JavaScript applications, more dynamic, more interactive. And some people do think of it to be like a read and write ecosystem. But what about read, write, and own? Because of course, you do want to own things, right? So let's say that I do go on a website and I want to buy like an artwork there. So I want to own it. So this is where Web3 comes in. So the idea is essentially like an ecosystem that you create where people can not only have the functionality from its predecessors, so you can still have your social media interaction, you can still have your email interaction, but you also have the ability to own things using cryptocurrencies, using the virtual space. And another addition to it is that there's this idea that you can maintain anonymity or pseudonymity, because essentially what you're using is just one wallet to interact with the entire web space. So you go in there with maybe your MetaMask wallet, which I'll be touching upon later, and then you can make some NFTs, or join a community using a decentralized organization and vote on, maybe I want to invest in this token, I want to buy a property in Long Island or something like that. So these are some things that you can do in Web3. And one of the big things that does come in Web3 itself is the idea of a metaverse. So essentially, more people can interact virtually, and it of course leaves us with a more interconnected web space. But this is all new and it's still under development. So this is where you all come in making Web3 what it is today, because Web3 is still in its infancy stages, and we are the ones that will, of course, build it to be what it will be in the future. That being said, within the metaverse itself, there's this terminology floating around known as NFTs, and it has become kind of a quick get-rich scheme kind of thing in the past, right? Most people do say, okay, if I want some money, I'm just going to make a quick NFT, sell it on OpenSea, and then put that money into my bank account. I'm going to be a millionaire just by drawing some things like these CryptoPunks. It's just a few pixels, So why exactly is there value to such artwork, like just a few pixels? Of course, NFTs, the idea of NFTs itself is the idea that each of these art pieces that you own itself is unique. But think of it like a Pokemon card, right? So you own this particular Pokemon card. There can be 1,000 copies of it, but this one has like an ID attached to it. So think of this NFT as the ID, like you own the ID of this particular Pokemon card. Well, speaking of Pokemon cards, Logan Paul, like a famous YouTuber that most people do know in this day and age, did come up with an NFT Pokemon card. So essentially what you own when you own an NFT is the hash to the NFT itself, which I talked about, the magic address to this particular property. And I think Uli can talk about a bit more about hash later, but of course, essentially what happens is when you do try and change something on it, essentially it's like creating a whole new person, the address to that particular thing changes. So this is what makes it unique and makes it irreplaceable. Although you might have multiple copies of it, there is none like this, because this is what's identified as your particular NFT, which is why me screenshotting this and then putting it on this particular PowerPoint doesn't mean that I own this NFT, because I don't own the hash to this NFT, but I've just picked up a random image on the internet and put it inside this PowerPoint itself. So again, the question be, why NFTs and what opportunities do people exactly have? So in terms of the first thing is, of course, interacting within the metaverse itself. So within the metaverse, there's this whole idea of a creator community and owner community. So let's say like you have your own characters. So this particular one is from a metaverse called Decentraland, where you can build your own avatars. So I'm not sure if you've heard of games like Roblox or Fortnite, where people come in and play, but essentially you can create your own avatars in here. But what you do is you own this particular avatar, and then you can create your own costumes for it, create your own dance emotes for it, and create whatever actions you want, and then add it to this particular thing. So that's kind of what makes it like an own community, and it kind of generates this whole hype around the metaverse. So this NFTs are something that you can add in. And I think some companies like Balenciaga Adidas and stuff, Nike itself have come up with sneakers that you can actually buy on the metaverse and then put it on your character and then roam around different metaverses. So that's something that I thought was extremely interesting. And secondly, we do have the idea of profit. So one thing that artists do typically hear is that it's very difficult to make money in the art world these days. And we do want to encourage the creative aspects of people and the creator community itself. So the metaverse does give you the avenue to kind of put out these artworks to an open platform where people can bid for it and purchase it. So this is kind of different from current art galleries where you kind of have to be established or have like a big name in the industry before you can actually break into it and have people buy your artworks for those exorbitant prices that we do see online. But with the idea of NFTs, it's as simple as just a few clicks, and then you have it out and ready for people to purchase. And lastly, we are going to be part of, and being part of the NFT ecosystem means that you're part of developing the future. NFTs itself have boundless applications. One application that I talked about for this particular presentation was artwork, but currently NFTs are being experimented to even think about real estate contracts. So this is primarily useful in countries where corruption is rampant and people can just say, okay, this is a fraudulent real estate document and hand it over to another person. So putting real estate documents on an NFT platform or on the blockchain itself kind of verifies it, accreditifies it, and then kind of associates it to a particular owner, making it unique and irreplaceable. So this is something that is currently under experimentation. I think other avenues where NFTs and the whole blockchain can come into play is the healthcare system, where you have your healthcare records, it's always a big thing when healthcare leaks. And I feel like something that you do hear about is SingHealth. Oh, SingHealth had like a data breach and a lot of data did get lost and leaked. So what if you had it as an NFT and then you put it in a blockchain where it's extremely difficult to unlock this particular box and take out the data from it? So these are some aspects that we can think about going into the future and why we are moving into this NFT metaverse-centric universe. So now that I've talked a bit more about the technical aspects, I do want to address some NFT creator communities within Singapore itself. So of course, I will be linking these in my presentation. Maybe I can share it with the students. So one is TTT. So they're actually TT Treasures, actually, sorry. So this was an NFT collection established by a Singapore collector. Essentially, it's kind of like NFTs of those gems biscuit candies. So it does have like artists behind it to just create this kind of cute gem biscuit that's vomiting a rainbow of sorts sitting on a cloud. So these are some of the ideas we think of NFTs. Additionally, the Siobhan Wong, I did see her recently in Vogue magazine where they did talk about her using fashion as a means to showcase her NFT talents. And then lastly, I think there's a rapper called Sugar Shade that did create his own NFT collection in collaboration with crypto.com and did put that out as well. And lastly is Finute. So this is like a student-run organization actually that does have huge potential within the metaverse and is developing new features almost every day with regards to Singapore itself and kind of, you could say, creating a home away from home within this particular metaverse. So of course, links to this will be provided within the presentation itself. Now that we've moved aside from the technical aspects, of course, we do want the students to get their hands dirty with creating their own particular NFT. So on the day itself, of course, I will be kind of screen sharing the creation process all the way and creation of a wallet all the way up till the creation of an NFT. But for the purposes of this mock demo, I'm just going to use a few slides to convey what exactly I do want to say on the actual day, right? So firstly, things that you'll need. So for this particular exercise, what we need is a MetaMask wallet or crypto wallet, along with the Chrome extension and the mobile application so that people can actually interact with this particular NFT on their phone. Secondly, they need a computer and smartphone because, of course, if you have the Chrome extension and mobile application, it means that you have to use a computer and smartphone for this particular demo. Moving on, I do talk a bit more about how exactly you set up your MetaMask wallet. So it's quite simple. You just create a MetaMask wallet, and then it kind of sets it up within your within the top right corner of your Chrome under extensions. And then once that's done, there's multiple networks that we can use. But for this particular project, we'll be using the Ethereum mainnet. But don't fret because there won't be any gas fees or any money that you'll have to pay to create your own NFT, but it's just one of the different blockchain networks that are available for creating this particular NFT. So essentially, the first step is that we get them to head over to OpenSea.io and select the user icon, and then we get them to connect one of the wallets that they have. So for some of those more blockchain savvy people that might be in a school, they might already have a MetaMask wallet. They might even have a Phantom wallet, Wallet Connect, so they can choose whichever wallet of their choice. Moving on from there, we head on to OpenSea.io and select the create portion itself. So this is essentially to create your NFT portfolio, and then you authorize the use of your account. So essentially, the idea with this whole thing is just to sign every transaction that you kind of make on the blockchain to kind of have a record that, okay, he did want to create this. So it's basically like a verification system, right? Moving on, once you click on create new item, you just fill in the details, and then we can maybe upload the artwork that the students did generate using the AI platform that we did talk about earlier within here, give it a quick name, give it like some hidden features, maybe section on that. And then we can just scroll down all the way, select the Polygon blockchain. So something interesting about the Polygon blockchain is that recently it came up with this gas-free creation system. So this is kind of to empower creators and artists and get more money out of it. So essentially they don't have to pay money anymore to put their artworks on sale. They just need to click a button. They can even create 100 copies of it and then transfer it to their friends. So for this purpose, I will be creating just one, but for the certificates I did talk to you all about, which we'll be providing to the students at the end of this whole segment. Yeah, Uli. Yeah, you raised your hand.
I'm sorry, I need to go to another call. I just realized the hour is over. Anything urgent, please text me. Otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. See you.
See you, Uli. All right, so essentially we'll be using the Polygon blockchain itself and then creating our NFT. So once this is done, of course, we'll get them to mint it. So essentially to mint it is to kind of import it within your own wallet and then put the ownership. Essentially what it is to transfer the ownership to yourself and accredify that on the blockchain. So something that we do is we go to the user button and then we go select the NFT that I created. So this was a random picture that I took to sell my wallet on Carousel, and I did make an NFT out of it because, of course, NFTs can be anything that you want. So we just select the NFT that we've created. We navigate to the details section. So from here, we just need the students to kind of copy two main things. So one is the token ID itself, and the second one is the contract address. So essentially, these are like the identifiers of where exactly your NFT is located and what's the ID of the NFT that you've created. So essentially like address and then NRIC. So we just need these two details for them to copy it over. They can then move into the MetaMask wallet in their phone, hit import NFTs, and then paste these two fields within the relevant sections as displayed on screen. So of course, I'll be walking them through this on the actual day since it's quite a small group. I'm sure we can get this accomplished. And then lastly, you have your own NFT essentially. So this is something that you can maybe airdrop to your friends, transfer to your friends, and have a fun time with it. So this is essentially kind of a takeaway. They do get something tangible that they created themselves, but in addition to that, they get an NFT from us, which is like a certificate stating that they attended this event in collaboration with NUS FinTech Labs. So with that, we've kind of come to the end of the presentation, and y'all can just feel free to ask any questions you may have at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Vignesh. Carl, you anything?
Not at the moment. Let me process my notes for a bit.
Okay.
Thanks for the session.
Thanks, Vignesh. So I think the thing about NFTs and the walkthrough is quite useful, but do you need the students to download anything so it quickens the process tomorrow? So you can let us know what the students need to download and register for your account first, so we get that done beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the main thing is just to get the MetaMask wallet set up. Of course, I think what I can do is after this call, I'll kind of get the resources and kind of a video demo, which I feel is always easier to walk aside rather than big text. So I'll just get some sort of video demo on how exactly to set up their own wallets. So essentially, that's all we need them to set up. Everything else, they can do it in person, basically going to the OpenSea website and creating everything. they can do in person over the workshop itself. So I'll just get the video on the MetaMask wallet sent to you, Melvin.
Okay, I think that sounds good. I think one of the things that I felt during the session was maybe we can have a roadmap to at the start of where we are going. So the end goal is like minting the NFT. So at least they have something in mind. So this is what we're going to learn today about. You introduced about blockchain first, then you went into the NFT. So I think maybe something at the start would help them guide them along also about what we're going to cover today. I think that would be useful for the kids to know.
All right, absolutely. I think I can just put in a quick agenda slide up there with kind of like a roadmap on what exactly they'll be learning in each segment, essentially.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think those are the things that I had in mind after what we discussed. So anything else from the others that you need to clarify?
Melvin, hi Melvin, I'm Reshma.
Yeah.
So Melvin, tomorrow's session would be video recorded, right?
Yeah, I think Jetty said so. I think that's fine. Do you need our recording on our side, or will you guys be doing it?
Recording from your side would be okay.
Okay, then I'll ask the relevant people. They can set it up, no problem.
Okay.
Yep.
So the recording would be shared with us.
Sure.
Yeah, we will prepare USB mics and also a 4K webcam. So no worries, you'll be in high definition.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anything else that you all need to clarify before tomorrow?
Maybe just for a user experience confirmation thing. If you don't mind just taking 2 minutes to ask what the students want to do with this knowledge at the start, I think then we can also tailor accurately tomorrow. So all these user personas are again generated based on my own experience as educator. So it might differ slightly tomorrow, and I think it might be useful to just validate and adjust accordingly if it makes sense. So whether the postulator students do show up, I think that's of course a hypothesis that remains to be validated.
So just some admin stuff to clear with you. Vignesh and Reshma, are you all driving in tomorrow or taking the MRT? And Uli as well, if you know.
I'll be taking public transport. I think I can ask Uli. I'll just text Uli and get back to you by email on that as well.
Okay, sure. Then I can meet you guys 1 o'clock. So we have a meeting tomorrow that might last until 1. So I'll just meet you 1 again. So we can start a bit later, no problem. So I'll bring you to the venue at 1 o'clock. So I'll meet you 1 o'clock at the side gate at Marymount.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much.
And we'll most likely divide and conquer. So I'll be setting up tech and any other things you might need. Maybe bring some stats, and I'll just be entertaining students. Yeah, before you arrive.
All right, thanks.
Cool. Maybe Sean just confirm. Do you have any comments as well or questions?
Well, I guess if the topic of conversation is the NFT workshop, is about NFTs, and maybe we can bring the easier parts of it, right? The less technical aspects of it forward, like the how to get an NFT, how to mint an NFT, how to get it into your wallet, all the non-technical stuff, because this would actually help the artistic students straight away, I think, because that's what they would like to do, mint an NFT, mint an artwork NFT. Yeah.
All right, absolutely.
I mean, that's just a suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that we can bring forward as well. So it's kind of similar to Uli's idea in the fact that we're bringing some more non-technical stuff to the front, and then we do the demo, and then after that we can talk about the technical stuff. I think that's something that I can kind of restructure.
Also, really appreciate the balance between sharing some more technical aspects. I think that will engage a range of student types, because there are definitely some of them. So thanks for deliberately designing that way. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, no worries. Yeah. Thank you so much for this opportunity, actually.
No, super stoked. So I think we will try our best to bring in some more people. I think it's a great session, and we'll try our best to improve distribution. It's always a tricky part, even in schools, like
Sure.
digital marketing. Yeah.
Well, completely understand. I myself am at the moment, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, on my end is nothing else. I do have to rush to class in 5 minutes, so I think that's Melvin, do you have anything else you want to clarify?
Not on my part also. So if not, then you can. I think I have Reshma's number, I think, but I'll just get the number, then we can text, so it might be easier if you need anything.
Yeah, sure. And then I guess I'll just compile the resources along with Uli's confirmation whether he's driving in and get back to you on text.
Yeah, sure. That sounds
All right.
good.
Thanks, Melvin. Yeah,
Okay, thank you so much for running this dry run, and see you tomorrow.
absolutely. No worries. Thank you so much.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you,
Look forward to
Asia.
seeing you in person. Right.
See you.
Take care.
Forward as
Bye.
well. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Arish.